you are a person of color, especially of the black community, and fortunately a lot of the black community leaders are beginning to speak up, that there is an institutional genocide going on. And people are looking the other way. And they don't care. Do you realize in the black population, by the way, I got this from not a white source, but a black source, that the birth rate is now below 2, due directly to abortion. These large numbers. If you do not have a birth rate of at least 2, you cannot reproduce yourself as a culture, as a people, as a society. The ultimate end of that is extinction. You realize that, right? If there's 2 of me, I have to have 2 more to replace me and the other person. When that falls below 2, you as a people begin to become extinct. And who is speaking up about it? One of the worst forms of racism going on today is providing abortion to minority people. And our tax dollars are being used in many times in that regard. Frightening parallels. We need to be honest about this thing called choice. When this woman told me this, it just blew me away. We're all created with choice, and we know that. This is just a farce. You realize that, right? It's just an absolute farce. To make some people feel palatable to a political situation that we live in. We all have choices. And the thing we know is that there are ramifications to our choices. And some choices that people make, moral choices, we legislate against them. And I'm glad we do. I'm thankful that there is a law that if you murder someone, you take an innocent human being's life, that those people go to jail and they are punished. And they had a choice. And there was a ramification to their choice. Because we have added law to that moral choice. This pro-choice position is not logical, it's not consistent, and it definitely is not biblical. We cannot turn our heads the other way and say, it wouldn't be my choice, but it's legal, and so thereby it's their choice. I'm reminded of Ezekiel, where God tells Ezekiel, you're the watchman, in chapter 3. Let me read it to you. And then I'll qualify it now that we're under grace as well. I want to make sure we understand this. But there's a principle here that is timeless, where God spoke to Ezekiel, chapter 3 and verse 17. He says, Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the house of Israel. So hear the word I speak and give them warning from me. When I say to a wicked man, you shall surely die, and you do not warn him or speak out to dissuade him from his evil ways in order to save his life, that wicked man will die for his sin, and I will hold you accountable for his blood. But if you do not warn the wicked man, but if you do warn the wicked man, and he does not turn from his wickedness or from his evil ways, he will die for his sin, but you will have saved yourself. We're watchmen. We need to warn people. Galatians chapter 6 talks about you who are spiritual, that we need to go to those and share with them what's wrong. We need to be able to stand for what's right. We cannot go passively through this topic. And I understand we're under grace and God is not going to, but my goodness, isn't that principle true today? That if we know somebody that is doing something that's wrong, will we not stand in the gap and stand for what is right? Here's the reality. The pro-choice position, make no mistake about it, supports, encourages, and allows abortion to take place. It is to look the other way as the most innocent of our society is brutally murdered. So in my sermon prep class on Tuesday, I had the guys, I said, Google pro-choice. And I thought it would have said something very neutral and wishy-washy to the effect that they don't support abortion, but they don't stand in the way of others who would make such a choice because it's legal, blah, blah, blah. No, it talks in there about they are those who support, they allow, and in words like that, because that's the reality and that's the truth. No matter how much we try to deceive ourselves, that's the God-honest truth. And we practice that. I can't think of anything else in life where we allow people to make such a tragic moral choice and we just say, it wouldn't be my choice, but it's the law of the land, so I'm not going to do anything to oppose it. The fact of the matter is, we cannot read the scriptures and not understand that God is pro-life. It's not so much he's anti-abortion, he's pro-life. Of course he's against abortion. He's against any kind of taking of innocent human life from the book of Genesis on through the end of the book. And so I was thinking, how are we going to persuade people? You can't. We develop a worldview based upon what we perceive as being truth and what we value. And every single one of us in here acts on what we believe to be truth and what it is that we value. And my role as a pastor, my role and your role as a Christian is to value the things that God values and to go to His Word and to embrace and to give our lives to those things that God values so that our behavior will be based in those values. Because we can speak one thing, we can sing another thing, but if we don't really value it, we don't do it. And we don't really believe it to be truth. We do what we value. And Jesus would say it this way in the Sermon on the Mount. Seek first His righteousness. Seek first His kingdom and His righteousness. And life will all come together when we do that. Jesus said in John 10 and verse 10 that I came to give life and life abundantly. Oftentimes we think about that as, okay, I'm just going to have a great time in life. But He said, I came to give life. In John 14 and verse 6, He says, I am the way, the truth, and what? The life. God so loved us to come to give us not just freedom from sin, but life. God is the one who created life. In Genesis chapter 1 and verse 27, He said, let us make man in our image, the sacredness of this life. We are so much different than those in the animal kingdom. Jeremiah chapter 1 and verse 5, he said, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I know he's talking to Jeremiah. I know he's got a special mission for Jeremiah. But how can that not apply to every single human being that's created? I knew you. Before I even formed you, I formed you in the womb. And I've got a plan for every one of you. And I think about the 40 plus million human beings that have been exterminated since 1973. And the plans that God had for those human beings and the greater world that we would live in today if those human beings were here. He created us. He set us apart. He's got a plan for us. The Psalm, David, what a wonderful psalm he wrote. And you can read the whole thing. I just got a couple of verses out of that psalm where he says, for you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you. Why? Because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. Do you know that when a baby is in the time in which it's legal to, I don't even like to use the word abort, to kill, they have watched the baby because they have this tube that comes in, they watch them on a ultrasound, and as the tube comes in, the baby tries to escape that. It can feel the pain. It understands it. It's trying to escape that. Crisis Pregnancy Counseling Services in Lenawee County, what a great organization where they give counseling and where they'll do ultrasounds and they'll show a woman. Do you realize the statistics go down dramatically when a woman can look at that baby